Good morning and welcome to the day 2 of the workshop that I've been thinking about. The title should be the Whiz Kids at Warp Speed workshop, addressing the standardization effects on the supply chain of personal protective equipment and technology. We are working fast and hard, many subjects and great experts, terrific audience. And so why not be the Whiz Kids? I'm Linda Hawes Clever. My training is in internal medicine, infectious diseases, occupational health, and community medicine, and I'm delighted to have you all here. I'll do a bit of a summary of yesterday and even our predecessor and predict the rest of today. Yesterday, we talked about what a standard is and what standards' role is in a resilient supply chain. And I talk about resilient, and that's part of our responsibility, because I'm harken back to President Lincoln, actually, his second inaugural address in 1862, which is just 160 years ago. He said, "The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise with the occasion. As our case is new, so must we think anew and act anew." And that's our responsibility, is responsible innovation in the face of relentless change. I also wanted to start again with thanks, very explicitly, to our superb staff, Kelsey Babick, Ashley Bologna, Autumn Downey, Rebecca English. Brian McCready, whom I didn't mention yesterday, is the tech giant who's behind the scenes and behind the screens, and we're very grateful. And also Sarah Lunsford, who's our guide to the North Star. And the North Star of this workshop is the safety and health of workers in America and safety and health of the American public. These are our treasures, and we're going to be talking about our treasures in a variety of ways. I'd also like to say that the panel yesterday and today are courageous, persistent, gutsy, creative, dedicated, as are our audience. And yesterday and today, we have academics, state, local, federal, government, industry, private sector, NGOs, media, not-for-profits, and of course, always other. Our work is important. As I said yesterday, every life is precious, and every life lost is a loss to all of us. Also, pandemics, we're not just talking about infections, but just about pandemics happen about every 18 months. We're having another one right now with the bird flu, another H5N1. But there are also toxins, and we think about what's going on in East Palestine. And so we have important tasks to work at warp speed with our whiz kids. Yesterday, we talked about what a standard is and the role in the resistant supply chain. We examined COVID-19 experience, what went wrong, what went right. We talked about the specific components of the supply chain, starting with design and manufacturing. And I could say in a thumbnail, basically everyone wants reliable guidance, information, stability, trust, good and understandable standard setting and standards. And almost above all, people ached for communication that was multi-way communication, back and forth, with feedback and then interventions. So that's a big order, but that's life, and we can do it. During our first session yesterday, moderator Tenor Venema oriented us to a recent report prepared by our parent task force. And some of that information, all the information that came to us from the task force that established the gaps along the way to having efficacy and effectiveness and all the things that we would want in the standards and PPE and PPT. And we're talking about healthcare settings, critical infrastructure, we're talking about the general public, And the gaps are remarkable. The types of protection, the technology, the education, information sharing, et cetera. And perhaps a great concern is the rather low confidence that many have in the information that we're getting from a variety of sources. Tenor also shared this visual, and I think that may be teed up to come up and show us what the graphic is that kind of captures the chain and the gaps in the chain. And here it comes. Thanks, Kelsey. So from left to right, workers and the public both represented. You'll notice for the public that there are no standards. And for workers, the lists and the various steps show the gaps. And I'm not going to say them all because you can read them. And at the end, it has the users. That's who we're talking about, both workers and the general public. And as I looked at this graphic, I kind of saw it's almost in the shape of a bugle with the on the right-hand side where the music and the harmony and the information would be coming out. And it's also a call to action. So there are gaps along the entire process, as you can see: manufacturing, fit use, product testing, bridging the distribution to the users, and so forth. And again, the lack of standards altogether in the public. Today, we're going to focus on the gaps in conformity and certification, marketing, stockpiling, distribution, and education and communication. I would say that there are a couple of things that I hope that we will continue to address. They came out yesterday. One was about storage, where the best places, the best way to distribute, and the best way to decide who gets what, because it became quite clear that equity is an issue in the distribution of PPE and PPT. There also, what came up yesterday, and I hope we have an opportunity to discuss, the tensions between the kinds of standards, the performance standards and the design standards. There are advantages and disadvantages to both methods, and I hope that we can apply our innovation and our goodwill to some win-win solutions in that particular area of the different types of standards. So as we talk about the gaps, as I had mentioned, we're going to have a conversation about how to set priorities in addressing the many, many gaps that we have. And we obviously have more than gaps because we do have PPEs and PPTs. So we want to have a realistic view of our world. We have a chain, and yes, there are gaps, but we have a chain and it does work. We want it to work better. We're going to close with a conversation about what an ideal standardization system could look like, and the best ways to assure the production and distribution and use of the very best kind of protection for our treasures, our lives, our precious lives. That's what we're talking about. I would just like to say that the word conversation is really quite interesting. The derivation is Latin. Con means with, as with consensus, and versus means turn. And it means it's not ranting, it's not raving. It means that we listen carefully to each other so we can turn with each other, perhaps to new solutions. Finally, from my part, as a reminder, you can use, in the audience, you can use the Q&A feature throughout to get questions and comments to the panelists, the moderators, and so forth. And with that, I would like to hand off again to Jill Morgan, who's going to lead a session on conformity, certification, and continued product performance. Thanks for doing this more, Jill. We're looking forward to your leadership. Thank you.